Today, let's talk about 8 high value career habits. These are the career habits that I've discovered through my own management career, my personal experiences, and my work in career branding and personal branding have the most impact on your career progression, your personal income, and your net worth. So grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. The little habits that you have in your career compound over time to increase your value significantly. The habits that I am going to share today is literally what I would share if I had a younger sibling, or I would share with the next generation of kids in our family. They are the things that I wish that I knew earlier in my career so that I could have been doing these things from day one. But having said that, they are all relevant no matter what stage of your career that you are in. There is a saying, I think it might be a Chinese proverb, that says that the best time to have planted a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So let's dive into the habits that are going to have the biggest impact on your career. And this is going to be the start of a series that I am doing on the career habits that I really just want to share. And so far, there is going to be at least 3 episodes. So make sure that if you are interested in this topic, that you tune in for the next episodes as well. So I've already got 24 habits that I want to share. So let's dive into the top 8 today. My first career habit is impact over every day. Because of the work that I do in personal branding and career branding, I get to see the back end of someone's entire career history. And particularly when that person is really successful, you get to see the path that they followed and what stands out in their professional experience. When you are putting together a modern resume or you are updating your LinkedIn, this is no longer about the list of your roles and responsibilities. This is all about an achievement orientated or impact orientated resume. So it's not enough to just be listing the things that you do in your 9 to 5 role, the expectations in your job description, because that doesn't stand out compared to the rest of the marketplace. You have to be showing the unique impact that you have had in a role, the things that you did that show that you went above and beyond what is just expected of you. And to be able to communicate that as a part of your career branding and your professional brand, you need to have done those things in the first place. So you need to have that habit of asking yourself, what else can I bring to the table beyond what is expected of me in my 9 to 5? So you can't just tick the boxes. You have to be delivering more to show that you have gone that extra mile. And this also leads into tip number 2, which is to track your outcomes and your highlights. So when it comes to you applying for a job, you're going to need to update your resume, your LinkedIn profile, you're going to need to put together a cover letter, and all of those things can feel quite difficult if you are trying to recall all of those things instead of actually having just documented all of those things along the way. So throughout your career, whether you are looking for a job or not, make sure that you are constantly recording the things that are most significant in the roles that you have had. What are all of those metrics? What are the numbers that are going to be a little bit more difficult for you to recall later? For example, if you were able to secure a partnership agreement, what was the value of that agreement? If you had a really successful sales pitch that was a really, record-breaking sales pitch or outcome for the business, what was the value of that? Or if you ran a really successful marketing campaign, what were the sales that that campaign generated? What was the increase compared to the previous campaign or the expectations compared to budget? How can you show the impact that you have had? Numbers are really great when it comes comes to outcomes. Not everything is going to have numbers that you can attach to it, but keeping track of those numbers as you go makes life a lot easier for the future you that might be looking for a new job and really wants to stand out in the marketplace. And outside of the things that seem like a major highlight, make sure that you are keeping track of things in general that may be significant to communicate to people going forward. So this might be, for example, the size of the budgets that you have overseen in certain roles, or the size of the community that this related to. All of those things might seem really obvious to you at the moment and that you would never forget them, but you would be surprised as to how difficult those things can be to recall when you are years removed from the role. So just make sure that you are always recording that. And this can be super simple. You can keep a note in your phone, you can keep a simple spreadsheet, you might have a Word doc where you just make sure that you are putting in all of that information. It doesn't need to be amazingly organized. It just means that you are keeping track of it to make that easier for yourself when you are looking for that future job. And this might be something that you consider doing at least every 6 months or 12 months, just to make sure that you are taking the time to document those things, so you don't have to do it every day or every week, but you are sitting down and reflecting on what those experiences have been. Tip number 3 is to ask for a promotion or a pay rise. The research has shown that men are more likely to actively do this compared to women. But the thing about not asking is that you are 100% going to fail at the things that you don't try. So at least if you ask, you are putting it out there as your intention, as something that you are hoping for the organization to consider. And the beauty of that is that you're going to get immediate feedback from that. You are either going to hear that it is something that they are willing to consider, or you are going to hear why it is something that they are not able to progress, at least for this time. You're going to get a better understanding of the business's position. You're going to also get a better understanding of how they view your role, or maybe what they are expecting from you. So if they don't necessarily feel like you are in a position yet to receive a pay rise or a promotion, you will get that feedback. They'll have to explain to you why that is, and you can take that feedback on board and decide what you do with it. You can action it, or you can choose to decide if this is the right organization for you to be a part of. And from my experience in leading teams, when someone asks for a pay rise, it's never just a conversation that you just forget about as a manager. It's always something that you think about, because you are aware of that person's intention and of their current satisfaction. And then you then have to lead that person with their goals in mind. So it becomes really valuable for your manager to know this. And whether it is something that they're able to execute straight away or not, it plants that seed. It sets into motion that this could actually come to fruition. And it might not be straight away, but it could be something that they could do in the near future. My tip number 4 is to set a private professional development plan. Now, most well-run organizations, at least, are going to have some sort of professional development program. And a lot of the time this relates to developing individual professional development plans with your manager or with your HR team. But what I find can be even more useful than that is to develop your own plan privately as well. And the reason why I think this is so important is that when you are developing your plans through your organization, you are likely going to be following their set structure, what they're looking for, the objectives of the business, the outcomes of the business in a really strict format. Whereas when you set this privately for yourself as well, I feel that you have the opportunity to think outside of the box a little bit more. And you can also put in there the things that you might want to work on but don't actually want to explicitly put down on paper or to share with people more broadly. Maybe it has something to do with a way that you interact with certain people in your organization, or maybe it is things that are outside of the workplace but affect your ability to perform. So these could be things such as leaving work at a reasonable time so you can fulfill your commitment to go to the gym more. It could be things like wanting to prepare healthier lunches so that you are fueling your brain power more than you currently feel that you are able to do in the way that you are operating. So the kinds of things that maybe your workplace isn't necessarily going to be as enthused about you including on your professional development plan, but you could potentially find have a significant impact on your ability to perform. My number 5 career habit tip is to leverage your workplace benefits. Often, most jobs will come with some sort of workplace benefit or perk to the job. And a lot of the times, we tend to focus in on the things that are a little bit more shiny, such as a staff discount, for example. But what I would recommend, or what I discovered probably much later in my career than I should have, is to really think about the benefits that your organization offers as a whole and what are you actually optimizing. For example, if you work for a not-for-profit, depending on where you live in the world, there could be benefits related to you working for a not-for-profit. So this might relate to fringe benefit tax or opportunities to engage in salary sacrificing related to your car, your rent, your mortgage, or it could also have benefits related to your contribution to your super or your retirement fund as well. So my advice to my younger self, or the next generation that can do this much earlier, is to think about what those potentially seemingly more boring benefits that your workplace offers could be and ask yourself if you are optimizing them. The other one that I think is really useful as well is anything that your workplace does in relation to offering support for further education. So sometimes organizations will have funds that they can have employees apply for as though it is like a grant, for example, and they will then allocate that to certain employees to support some of their work. Or they might just have as a part of their workplace conditions that they offer opportunities for you to engage in your own study privately, but support that through the workplace. So for example, I was super fortunate to have an employer who supported your private study through access to paid study days. So when I was studying through the Chartered Institute of Marketing and my exam period was coming up, this made this really helpful to be able to dedicate time to that without it actually affecting my income. And sometimes organizations will also pay for you to do your study depending on if that brings value to them as well. But one caveat to this is that a lot of organizations will require you to stay with the organization for a period of time after you have completed that study. And you don't have to stay with them, but it might just mean that you are having to potentially pay back some of the contributions that they have made if you leave within a certain period of time from when you actually do that study. But the point is to look at the big picture of those benefits and ask yourself if you are leveraging those opportunities because they could have significant future value for you as well. My tip number 6 for your high value career habits is to apply anyway. There is research that shows that men will apply for a job if they look at the responsibilities and figure that they can do about 60% of what is being asked in that job description. But women will apply if they feel that they can do about 100% of what is in that job description. The thing is, if you don't apply, then you have zero chance of getting that job. You're better off applying and seeing how you go through that process. Because remember that a job description or a job ad is often a wish list. It's all of the things that an organization really wants that ideal candidate to have, but probably understands is going to be tricky to tick every single box. And they might also have a different weighting related to different responsibilities, which they don't necessarily communicate in their job ads and their job description. So while you might think, well, I don't have experience in social media, this could be an element of the role that they are either able to train you on, or maybe it's not as significant as you thought it was, and it's something that you could easily do, or it's something that you can actually negotiate to not be a part of your responsibility, and they might be willing to assign that to a different team member or to a different role that they have planned in the organization. But if you apply, then you can at least see how you progress in that process and have that conversation in the interview about the different responsibilities and what might be expected of you. And this idea of applying anyway shouldn't just relate to your dream job. I also want you to think about the other opportunities that you have to apply for things. Earlier, I mentioned that your organization might have a study grant program, for example, or if you are engaging in study, maybe the institution, the university, or the college that you are applying for has a scholarship program. And I know from experience in being successful in a scholarship as a part of my MBA studies that you have to be in it to win it. When I initially looked at the scholarship that I was applying for, it was a leadership scholarship, and I thought that it was a long shot for me to be applying, but I wanted to make sure that I was at least trying. And just a couple of hours that I spent on putting together this application saved me literally thousands of dollars in being successful in that process. So you are better off applying and finding out if you are successful or not than not applying at all. And similar to applying for a job, you never know who the other people are that are applying. Maybe you just assume that everyone is going to be so much more advanced than you and so much more impressive to the recruiters or the scholarship panel than you, but you never know who is applying. Actually, now that I say this is something that my best friend who used to work in media used to say about competitions. She would always say, people don't realize that they should apply because you don't actually know how many people are applying for that and how great your chances could actually be. So you're better off applying and being in it to win it than not applying at all. My tip number 7 is to network online and offline. So how are you engaging with your industry? Are you attending events? Are you part of forums related to your industry? Do you connect with the contacts that you have made in your industry outside of just the people that you work with on a platform like LinkedIn? How are you making sure that you are growing and retaining that network that you are building every day when you engage with people internally and externally to your organization? Because as the saying goes, your network is your net worth. What I also like about when people can show that they are engaging in the industry overall is that it shows a commitment to the broader industry. It doesn't just show that you are ticking the box of your job, that you are just turning up at work every day, but you have a passion for the industry. You are wanting to have an impact on the industry or to contribute your point of view or to develop your network in this space. And if you don't love to attend networking events and the face-to-face networking just isn't for you, then at the very least, make sure that you are connecting with your contacts on LinkedIn. Make sure that, at the end of every 6 months or 1 year that you think about the contacts that you've had and connect with them. Even better if you connect with them immediately after you meet them on LinkedIn as well. And number 8 is to build your personal brand. You shouldn't just be thinking about your professional brand when you are applying for a job. It's not just about the way that you package yourself for your career brand on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile. You need to be thinking about how you are building your professional presence ongoingly outside of just that recruitment process. One of the ways that I personally love seeing people do this is through creating content. Similar to, as I just mentioned, networking and being active on platforms like LinkedIn. This demonstrates your passion for the work that you do and the area of expertise that you have. that you are able to provide your unique perspective and your unique point of view, that you might spend your time in your spare time actually doing that is going to be really attractive to a recruiter or a future employer, because it shows that you are willing to go above and beyond, that you're not just applying for a job, but it is a space that you are particularly committed to. So you might start a blog, you might have a podcast, a YouTube channel, you might write articles for LinkedIn, but when you do that, you are creating a portfolio of proof that is able to back up the claims that you are making about your professional brand. So remember that your career habits compound to increase your value, your income, and your net worth. Subscribe for more in this career habit series, and I'll see you in the next episode.